Alright, so in this video we are going to be talking about parabolas, so let's get started. So, I want you to go ahead and try to graph. If you think about graphing, you probably think about linear equations. You might think about the slope of a line, linear equation, which is y equals mx plus b, which is the slope of a line. You plug in your values, m is your slope, b is your y-intercept, and you're good to go. But what if we wanted to graph a quadratic? How will we do that? So I want you to start off by graph this equation right here. Y equals x squared. Go ahead and graph this, and I want to see your solution. Alright, so hopefully you've come up with a solution. Now if you notice, let's just start plugging in some values. I'm going to create a table here. We're going to put in an x value. We're going to put in x, -2. -2 squared, that's 4. Now we're going to put in a -1. -1 squared, that's 1. Now we're going to put in 0. 0 squared, that's 0. We get back a 0. Now I'm going to put in a positive 1. If I put in a 1, 1 squared is just 1. And if I'm going to put it positive 2, if I put in a positive 2, I'm going to get back 4. The x values might change, but the y values are the same. Now we're going to plug this in. X is -2, that's over here. X is -2, y is 4. So we have this is -2, this is going to be 4. Plug that in. X is -1, y is 1. So that'll be right here. And then we are at the origin, 0, 0. And now, when x is 1, y is 1. And now when x is 2, we go over here, 2, y is 4. Now if we connect these, you'll notice we get a parabola, and this is supposed to go through. And this is the graph, what most graphs will look like for quadratic equations. And the line right here, as you can see, it's symmetrical. Because this is the axis of symmetry. So the axis of symmetry, it's what's going on over here. So in here, if we put in a -2, we're going to get back a 4. If we put in a -1, we're going to get back 1. If we put in a positive 2, 1, we're going to get back 1. And the same goes over here. If you put in a 0, you're always going to get back a 0. Usually that's what's going to happen. Unless you, usually you're going to have you have the intercept and stuff, but here we're just graphing y equals x squared. So that's how you would go about graphing. You put in your x and your y values. You usually want to start with -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. So this is always going to be your input. Your input is always going to be -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. Always, you're gonna want that input. Now this graph actually keeps extending on forever, but when you're actually graphing it, we don't usually use the arrows, but actually the graphs just keep going on. So that's the graph of that equation, y equals x squared. That would be your graph of y equals x squared. Now let's try another example. And I'm going to go over here. Now, I want you to graph y equals 4x squared. Create my Cartesian plane. Alright. So hopefully you've graphed it. We're going to do the same thing. Create a table. X and Y. We put in our inputs, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. Easy. Now, we plug it in. Now we have 4 times -2 squared. -2 squared is just -2 times -2, which gives you 4. 4 times 4, that's 16. Now plug in -1. -1 squared is just 1. 4 times 1 is 4. If I put in a 0, 0 squared is 0. 4 times 0 is 0. If I put in a 1, that's just 4. And if I put in a 2, that's 2 squared is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So we're going to have this as our axis of symmetry. And we know that the vertex is going to be the origin over here. So now we can just start plugging them in. So what I'm going to do is, we have when x is -2, y is 16. Now obviously I don't have 16 over here, so what we could do is, I could just count by 4. So 4, we can go 4, 8, 12, 16 could be over there, -2, 16. Or I can do count by 2s, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. I can add 16 over here. And I can have 16 over there. So we can have a 16 over here. We're going to count by 2 since that seems efficient. And also this is going to be by 2's as well. So when x is -2, I'm going to do this as -2. That would be our thing. So when x is -2, we would have 16. So I'm going to place an x -2. When x is -1, we have a 4. So 2, 4. So that would be like around here. When x is 0, we already have the origin down. When x is 1, y is 4. So that would be 2, 4 over here. When x is 2, 16. That's just over here. 16. And now we can just connect. And we are done at plotting. Alright, so that's the graph for this one. Now notice how we do have a difference. This one's a little bit wider and this one's a little bit thinner. As you can see, it's going narrowed down. Now that's how you would graph this equation. We make a table, we put in these inputs, and we just plot our points, and we do. It's that simple when it comes to parabolas. But these are just the basics. Right, this is just the bare minimum. And in part 2 of parabolas, we're going to go more in depth of how to actually graph quadratics, because this is just a bare minimum. This is just the very basics you need to know. So hopefully this video is helpful, and yeah, that's part 1 of Introduction to Parabolas.